Hello and welcome to the Adventure Habits podcast with me, David Overton at Splash Maps. In this podcast, we look for the habits that people have that help them adventure more frequently. And we put that out as a gift to you, dear listeners, to allow you to have much more adventure in your life because that's good for your health and well-being, as we're learning from the fantastic guests we have on here. This is our seventh episode. Do catch the last episode with the sidecar guys. Remember their advice that you have to stay calm, do something that's completely wacky, and and don't drive at night. So, go and find out more about them by going to our website and looking for Adventure Habits on Spotify and YouTube. And please subscribe to that when you're there. Today, it's really the beginning of the group outdoor season for hiking, walking, cycling, everything, all the above. And so I'm delighted to have with me a guest who is well and truly embedded into all of that. Say hi to everyone, Steve Layte.
Hello, good morning on this bright and sunny April morning.
Yeah, it's a good one. And, both Steve and I are lamenting the fact that we have to work. Otherwise, we'd be out in all that brilliant Aprilness. So it's the beginning of group outdoor activities and stuff. Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about your roles and how you encourage people out into the outdoors?
Well, for the last nearly 50 years, I've been a member of the Scouts Association, both as a young person and then as an adult. Through that's really where I got into outdoors. My parents weren't particularly into it, although we did stay in Derbyshire every year for a holiday. But it was mostly through the Scouts that I got out into the outdoors, and I've carried that on ever since. The roles I have now, I help a team of people manage a centre in North Wales, and I head up.
What's the centre, Steve?
The centre is the Old Mill. I won't say it in Welsh because I'm not Welsh. The Old Mill in Cynwyd, which is near Corwin, just off the A5. It's a 30-bedded centre that is available to everyone, but is the adventure centre for Northampton Scouts. We bought it back in 2005. It's the former youth hostel that was in Cynwyd, one of the original youth hostels from North Wales. And for our use, it's open to all our scout groups, any other scout groups.
And how many scout groups do you typically get through there in a season? I guess the season is kind of spring through to autumn, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, no, we get, because it's indoor accommodation, we actually get scout groups right through the year. I mean, we took some Explorer Scouts from Nen Valley in Northamptonshire in February for a hill walking weekend, which was far snowier than I wanted it to be because that's above the limit I can operate at. But we had 2 good days out in the lower hills around there. And that's one of the things, certainly with the centre, we try and encourage that you don't have to climb high mountains to have an adventure.
And I think that's a really key message, isn't it? An adventure, perhaps, is what you perceive the adventure to be. Perhaps something that takes you outside your comfort zone, or just something that gets you to experience something you wouldn't experience in your daily life normally.
The Scout Association we now operate with 4-year-olds. An adventure to a 4-year-old is far different to an adventure for a 17-year-old. And it's important to remember that. And most of my time with the Scout Association, I've dealt with teenagers. That's my favourite age. You can do more with them. You can take them to higher places, but the adventure starts much earlier than teenage years, and you can encourage people to put that into their lifestyle, that going outdoors is part of their actual makeup.
Yeah, yeah. Which, and I guess you probably got influenced a bit by that, even if your parents weren't into outdoor adventuring. Those childhood holidays in Derbyshire, etc., must have an impact. And I I love that it's the scouts that have put you into this position that you're in now. And the phrase that I always enjoy from them is skills for life, and you can actually see it through scouts. And I've worked with them, not quite down to the 4-year-old age. That's a fairly new innovation for scouts, isn't it? It's, for me, it
It is, and
starts.
that's building. That is building. I mean, my message is that we also need to concentrate on the teenage years. They're really important to actually allow those teenagers to have adventures as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's a crucial thing to do. And helping those teenagers, that instantly makes me think of Duke of Edinburgh awards. That's kind of a hierarchy of awards that you really force you into adventures, and importantly, group adventures. Now, what's your role with the Duke of Edinburgh Awards?
Well, I've worked for I have done training for the Duke of Edinburgh Award itself, with adults, but now I lead on. I'm one of the Duke of Edinburgh Award advisors for Northamptonshire, and I lead on expeditions. So we run all our gold expeditions. Um, Gold expeditions have changed. You can do them anywhere. You don't have to be in mountainous areas, um, but it has to be a step up from what you've done previously. And our
Yeah,
step up still is most of our gold expeditions take part in southern Snowdonia, and that's my lead role.
yeah.
And we do well this year so far. We've taken 23 people, young people, out, and they've done um, expeditions in Shropshire and in North Wales.
Yeah,
Um,
and I remember you've actually set up the South Snowdonia and the North Snowdonia award maps for the Splash Maps website as well. So thank you very much for that. Your input's been incredibly valuable to us, and it's great to know that people are out there and following our maps on the odd occasion, doing your stuff. Um, and I've noticed that this year you've placed another order as well. So that seems to be something that's up and coming. That's that more challenges to come later in the season.
I love maps. If you give me a map, I can pore over it for hours. But over the years, I've bought many maps. The joy with splash maps are that they don't disintegrate. Um, you can actually use them in all weathers. They're very easy to pack, and they're a unique um, selling point. Um, at the centre, I was talking to someone the other day about having shower curtains and tablecloths, and they have to be maps because that's inspiring. Maps are generally inspiring.
That's what I've always found. But then no no surprises there on my side. But it's great to hear that. And one of the great things about that format is that although I've not worked with the 4-year-olds, we did work with beavers, and with beavers you can introduce them to those maps, and we actually encourage them to crawl over the maps. That sounds like heresy to anyone who's using those paper maps that everyone's used to. But with a fabric map, you can get them to crawl over them. You can get footprints on them. They can mark them up with a marker pen. Everything ends up going in the washing machine at the end of it, and everyone's had a great time. And they've got used to the depiction of the outdoors on a map, which at that age I think is that's great to get them at that age. That the outdoors can be so well represented on what is effectively something that will be scrunched up and stuffed in a pocket.
I mean, your maps, I still use them. You kindly made us some very small versions of the Corwin area,
I remember.
and they've been used so many times, written
Yeah,
on with felt tips, and then just, as you say, put in the washing machine, reused, and they just sit in my bag, my navigation training bag. Um, and one of the things that I do with them is get people to select a square and find all the features they can find in a square. And you can do that with very young people.
mm.
You tend to have to show them a map sign, but then get them to find it.
Yeah,
It's probably more exciting for a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old than it is for a 14-year-old who's going to pretend that they don't enjoy it,
yeah,
even
and
though.
know it all as well.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing that fascinates me. Teenagers, how they respond to things. It
Yeah,
it still makes me smile how they respond, and and it keeps me doing what I do, because every time you do something, every time you go on an expedition, there's something new. One of them will say something that will stick with you for a very long time.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's terrific, and so you're learning from them, they're learning from you, and you extend this into the kind of the older person group activities as well. I understand. I know that you've had involvement with the Corwin Walking Festival because we've made you the maps for that as well. But is that something you continue to do? Organise walks with grown up groups?
We do organise walks with grown-up groups. The walking festival, prior to the pandemic, we were in 2019. We got 300 walks out in a weekend, which
Mm,
was really, really good. We have struggled since the pandemic. We're taking a break this year just to regroup, um, but there will be walks in Corwin for adults going forward.
yeah,
Um, we 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 were very proud of the fact that some of our walks, we took people from the local area to places they'd never been to before.
yeah, yeah.
And that,
It's
and that,
surprising how
you know,
often that can happen.
well, it was a colleague from Corwin who actually came up with the concept that we actually come up with a walk each year where we could drive as high as we could get, so that people could get to a high point without having to actually physically put all that effort in. And I will say, out of all the things I've done, that's one of the things that I always think was a real triumph. That finding little back roads that went very near to summits, and you got people to places they just never imagined they could get to.
Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. Well, I mean, what a joy and what a brilliant thing to pass on to people. Well, Steve, we need to find out from you because I think everyone will know now that you're well qualified to help them in their adventure habits. So the whole purpose of the Adventure Habits podcast is so we can get the adventure habits that you have that you find help you adventure more frequently because there's so much evidence that having more adventure in your life is good for your health, well-being, mental health, everything. You'll live longer, you'll live better, basically, if you adventure a bit more often. So, Steve, I'm going to ask you for your 5 adventure habits. What's the first one you'd share with us?
The first one is always have a plan. Um, my planning will usually always involve a map, but always have a plan. I like to think that once something's finished, I've got the next plan on the back burner, ready to come forward as to the next thing that I'm doing. Sometimes that gets a bit hectic, but always have a plan, and I think that's good in generally in life. Have a plan, and realize that it will change, it will adapt,
Yeah.
but start with a basic plan. Um,
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, that's great. And it's your plan. I mean, when you start with a plan, uh, can that apply to something that's spontaneous or semi-spontaneous that you've thought up that morning? Will you draw on your
Well,
maps before you go out, for example?
well, sometimes they are spontaneous. The other week, I was encouraged at some unearthly hour of the morning that we were going to get up and go to Derbyshire, and that's a great day when
Yeah.
you're not expecting something to happen, and then it does. And I think those things have to be cherished. That you can actually, come up with a bit of a plan to actually to get out and just be outside. I think that being outside is really important. I think for human beings in general, being outside is important.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, well, that's a great first one. What about the second one?
I'd say learn suitable skills.
Yeah,
I have an aim that everyone that I deal with can use a map and compass. I think a map and compass is state of the art in any century, and I do appreciate that we are getting to the point where maps come on phones and maps come in all different shapes and sizes, but actually learning the skills of actually being able to use a map, and I won't say paper because your maps you can actually navigate just as easily off, but those simple skills of being able to use a map. The other skills I'm always keen on are what would you do if something went wrong? Actually, and that comes back to having a plan. What would you do? And actually make sure you've got those skills before you venture out or go with someone who has got those skills.
yeah. I mean it is crucial, isn't it? Because you don't know, what life is going to throw at you, and as soon as you do go on what you define as an adventure, you go outdoors. Really, you're at the whim of the elements. And I think just recently we just saw a piece of news of someone who was underqualified taking people out for paddle boarding, and that actually had some pretty awful mortal impacts. Um,
I
and
think I think
so
it's people working within the skills that they've got. And if you want to go further afield or you want to go to the higher mountains, then if you're going with someone else, make sure that you're learning as you're going.
yeah, yeah,
One of my aims would be that people learn skills to the point where they can do it themselves. And that's what we do with expeditions with young people. We give them the skills so they can go and do it themselves. And I usually say at the end of expeditions, don't worry about whatever award you're going for. Learn the fact that you've actually packed a bag, walked with it over a number of days. That means you can go anywhere in the world. And
yeah,
the greatest thing about that is not the award, it's the ability to look after yourself, sometimes in fairly hostile terrains, um, and realise that you can cope with that.
yeah.
But that's all about learning skills in the first place.
It is, and it's amazing how those skills layer up, right? So, you might learn about camping outdoors, etc., with the Scouts in the UK, but that could lead into all kinds of fun stuff. And quick plug for the Armchair Adventure Festival. If you want to meet some great adventurers that have taken it to the extreme, do come to the Armchair Adventure Festival in July. We'll be sponsoring John Blashford Snell to do his talk again there. Steve, you must come along to that one this year.
Yes,
I know
well,
it's,
yes,
it's
I'd be interested. I'd be interested. That is, sounds really good.
yeah, it'll be great to see you there. So we're on to number three now. What's your third bit of adventure advice?
Well, I think review, and
Mhm.
learn from your mistakes is number three. I think at the end of anything, look at how it went and what you could learn for the future.
Yeah,
I mean, it's something I've done. Anyone who navigates who hasn't made a mistake and got it wrong, um, actually probably isn't telling the whole truth. Um, because I think we all get things wrong. One of the things I do is go back to where I went wrong, perhaps on another weekend, perhaps on another day, just to look
That's
and
how it
think,
goes.
well, why did I make that mistake? Why did I go down there when I shouldn't have done, and had to correct it? What made me do that? And I review things all the time. Any event I run, I always say to all the team, right, what could we do better for next time? And there's always something that you could add that would make it better.
Yeah.
So reviewing everything is my number 3.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're literally rewalking the path.
It sometimes, yes, I've done that. I've made a mistake when I've been out myself, and I've gone back to the point where I've made the mistake to work out why I made the mistake.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll be using that with our mountain biking group this evening as well, because I made a bit of a mistake last time. Still quite bruised as a result, but yeah, but I will be going back through the same ground and I won't make the same mistake again. So yeah,
But I think you can always learn. The biggest lessons in life are from the mistakes you've made.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's that kind of, and we've had this a number of times. I was kind of inspired by the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and that's by a chap called Covey, and we had someone from the Franklin Covey Publishing House on here, and it is great the way that those habits can shape how you deal with the adversity you get during adventures. Um, so I like, I like that you're fitting in with that, because part of it is that fear of failure. It should not be a fear. It should be actually embraced. When you do fail something, it's a learning opportunity. You can't
Absolutely.
always be winning. Sometimes you're just learning, right?
Well, you are just learning, and winning is, I've done adventure races, I've done some ultras, um, but they're always about proving something to myself, not proving it to other people. But all you're doing is racing yourself,
Yeah,
and it amuses me because I'm never going to win because I'm not that quick, but you can always learn something, and it's then looking at yourself. Well, why did I do that? Why did I feel like that? What got me through? And that's what builds resilience.
yeah,
Resilience is putting yourself into adversity and then coming through it and realizing how you can, and
yeah.
that's important.
So that's your method for building up the resilience you need for adventure, is to review, review, review. And that was
Yeah.
your number 3. So nice that you said it 3 times as well. I'm able to keep up. So how about number 4? What have you got for us, Steve?
Number 4 is always be ready for an adventure. Um, I I have a bag. I've always got a rucksack packed. It's always in my vehicle. Um, I could go out now, pick up a bag, put my walking boots on, and go for a walk. Um, Not that I'm going to, because I'm sat in an office today, but it's the ability to always do that. So
If it's
that's
a really bad day at the office, Steve, that might be the temptation.
well, I have, on numerous occasions bought running kit in and gone for a run at lunchtime because it gets me away from the office.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and in its way, that's a little adventure. I might only be doing 3 miles, but 3 miles, is an adventure.
yeah.
It and always be ready for it. So proper kit that works. I like kit. I'm a bit of a kit monster. I do buy lots of kit. Always have a bag packed and suitable footwear. And suitable footwear now can be all sorts of things depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great, great. And always be prepared. That's very scouty, that one, actually, isn't it? That's
Yeah, I
a
didn't say always be
always be.
prepared because it's yeah, that people who know me would cringe if I said that. Um,
Yeah,
but
I
but
saw
it's the
for you.
same, it's the same thing. It's exactly what the scout motto is all about, is just be ready for anything that happens. And that goes back to my number 2 of learning suitable skills.
Yeah, yeah. And so your number 5, what have you got for us, Steve?
My number 5 is that adventure is everywhere, and I've just touched on that. I think we all have to remember that to each of us, adventure means a different thing,
Yeah,
but adventure can be just as simple as going, you know, out of your front door and going for a walk. Um, I always like to add to that if we're just doing that, and especially if we're doing it with our younger sections, just going for a short walk. But if you have a rucksack and you put a stove in it and you make, a hot drink, my explorer leaders know that if we're going to have an adventure, hot chocolate and marshmallows and sprinkles and cream will come out of some bag somewhere,
yeah,
um, because it's memorable. But adventure can be as simple as walking out of your front door and going for a walk.
yeah,
I do like the schools where they make everyone run a mile. That's I'm fascinated by that. That young people running a mile every day. I think that there's something in that we should all remember. But that adventure is everywhere. You
yeah.
can make anything into an adventure.
I wholeheartedly agree, and sometimes that's a mindset thing as well, isn't it? Because a walk outside your own house could just be a walk outside your own house, but if you go with the mindset that you're actually going to take in the surrounds, you're going to do stuff while you're out there. I love the idea of just sticking a stove in the rucksack with you, and then going out making a wild cup of tea somewhere, and this time of year there's always exciting stuff growing up through the ground. It's wild garlic at the moment, which
Yeah,
is worth picking up, and that could be the basis of an adventurous meal in the evening or something as well. And I love the way that you've illustrated that last one actually earlier on with the working with kids as young as 4 years old. Their perception, as you said, their perception of adventure is so totally different to ours and the teenagers that you deal with as well.
but I always say, I'm involved in adult training for the Scouts, and I always say to people, you go to school, you do maths on day one, and you do maths on probably the day you leave. It's a core subject. It's very
Mm,
different from what you do between your 4th and 18th birthday, and that's the same with the skills that we teach. There's not an age range for skills. It's just
yeah,
what you teach at what age.
yeah,
and
and
and playing a game with map cards, asking people what it is, can be done with very young age group, but that stays with you forever.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure I'll still be playing with those when I'm in the old folks' home. So it'll be it's a full life commitment, really, isn't it? That and just so Steve, we've got you on because you really represent that kind of group walking and extending the enthusiasm that you have for adventure to many more people. And we'll be putting some resources together with this talk on Spotify, YouTube, and through our website, so you can go through to meet Steve directly through the links I'll provide there. But also for groups who don't want to spend huge amounts of money on maps. We've got a package of discounts. We've also got the ability to make a whole group of maps at wholesale prices. And we've also got the ability for you, if you've got a dispersed group and you want everyone to benefit from lower cost price maps, then we can sell you batches of discounted vouchers so they can each set up their own area. So there's no excuse. Get your group outside as soon as possible, get them adventuring, and follow Steve's terrific 5 habits. So always have a plan. Then have suitable skills, learn them as you go, review, walk the old path, Steve. I think that's it. And always, I've written it down as always be prepared because I because I kind of think the scout way on that one. Um, and just remember that adventure really is everywhere. So, Steve, I'm really grateful for those. People will learn from those by taking part today. You've gifted people those adventure habits that you live by. So, thank you from everyone here, and
Thank you.
yeah, have a great rest of your season. So, where is your next walk?
My next walk will be probably in a week's time. I'm going up to Arran in the summer. We're taking 100 Explorer Scouts to the Isle of Arran,
Wow,
which is an interesting project. Because
that's
someone
a lot
said
of
to me,
scouts.
"Oh, can we do something? Can we do something exciting for Explorer Scouts, which are our 14 to 18-year-olds?"
Yeah,
So I thought a small Scottish island, that's about as exciting as it gets. Um, so we're doing a recce. Um, Everything we do, we generally go and do it beforehand. So
yeah,
in a week's time, I'm going to Arran to sort out what we're going to do with 100 teenagers in
yeah.
August.
Steve, I mean, that just emphasizes to me, I'm so grateful there are people like you, because a lot of us will be thinking, oh my God, how do you prepare for that?
Well,
But
yes, it's been an interesting conversation with train companies. I've got a colleague who's dealing with doing our transport, trying to put 150 of us on trains has been a very interesting um, element of his time to make that
yeah,
happen.
that's an extreme group. And I knew you were the right person to have on for this particular episode for just that reason, Steve. Someone understands the group. That's it. So if you want to get in touch with Steve, how would you recommend people do that best?
Well, I'm on social media. I don't post much. Mostly, I post things when we've had adventures. Um,
Sure.
but I am on social media. You can find me, or um, I will put my email address at the end of your.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, that sounds great to me. Well, Steve, thank you so much for your time this morning, and yeah, adventure well. Everyone listening, remember to all the past episodes are available. This is now episode 7, so go back to the past ones, learn about the basis for the 7 habits. And the 5 habits from 6 people so far. So you've now got 35 habits. Come on, guys, let's get out there and adventure more often. Bye bye for now.